Hello, everybody. Dan Bickford here, and it is time for our next episode of Carolina Rides. We are going to be delving into the world of BMW. Now, first, of course, I want to remind everybody here we're not aligned with any particular make or model. In fact, we would like to have a little bit of everything on. And we also will take requests. If you have any ideas or know somebody who's got a collection, a part of a car club, or even just works on cars for a living or even as a hobbyist, you know what? We wouldn't mind having them on. We'll take the request. Give us the information. Here are our social media channels. You can always contact us there. On the YouTube channel, we will also be posting little highlight clips from each of our podcasts. The full podcasts, of course, are always available right here on WSPA+. But a few days after that gets on, usually early the following week, I'll put a little snippet of something up so you can kind of get a little taste of what's going on. And, of course, you can watch the whole thing on WSPA+. Now it's time for our first guest, or our only guest today. I would like to welcome Neil Baer from the Sandlapper BMW Car Club of America. Neil, thanks for joining me.
Thank you. Appreciate the invite, and it's nice to see you.
Let's start with the beginning. How did you get interested in BMWs in the first place?
Whoa. I've been a car guy my whole life, and I just wanted something that was a little bit bigger, believe it or not. I had an MR2 and then a Corrado, which are pretty small cars. And so I looked at BMW, and it had the right amount of sportiness because I like good handling and other factors in a car. And so I went to a dealer, and I said, I think I can do this. So that's how it started about 20 years ago.
What kind of BMWs do you have now?
Right now, got my original one, which is a 2005 BMW 330 Coupe, which we actually picked up in Europe, drove it there, and then I had it shipped here. We have a 2016 Z4, which is a two-seat roadster convertible. And we have a 2021 540 four-door sedan. So they're all different sizes and shapes, but they've all got that BMW DNA, and they're great-looking cars, and they're a lot of fun to drive.
Now, you said you've always been a car guy. Was there anything that you remember? What made you kind of gravitate that way?
Wow. I don't know. I think it might have been genetics. My dad was a car guy when he was younger. And I started as, believe it or not, as a 5-year-old. I remember seeing a commercial for a T-Bird on television, and the next day, and it had this really cool feature. It had a steering wheel that when you open the driver's door, it would pop up and away. And I thought, as a 5-year-old, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. So I went the next day and looked at every car on the block and some subsequent blocks to see, peeking in the window, not realizing it's only on T-Birds and it's only an option. But that's when I got started. From a very early age, I liked doing that. And then when I got a little older, I started buying Motor Trend and some of the other car magazines and just reading about cars. And pretty soon started driving, and the rest is history.
Now, obviously, we are in a unique position here in upstate South Carolina with BMW, simply because we happen to have a rather large BMW presence in Greer. Tell me how that has affected kind of the local car community.
Well, 11,000 people working at the plant and another, I'd say, 30,000 supporting it. It's had a huge impact on the economy, number one. But as far as the car community goes, with all the BMWs running around and other, Michelin's headquartered here, and other manufacturers have all congregated around to support these automotive giants. There's just a ton of cars. There's everything. And so from a BMW standpoint, you've got people who may have worked at the plant, they still work there, they've got cars they brought over from Europe and things like that. So you get a real fascinating cross-section of cars that you don't normally get in, say the Midwest or something like that, where it's not quite as easy to find things and stuff like that. So with the BMW Performance Center, where you can go and drive, which is a hoot, and it helps improve your driving skills too. In addition to that, the BMW Car Club Foundation is here, and they have a museum called the Ultimate Car Museum, which is really great. BMW Car Club headquarters are here. So all these things combined make this sort of the utopia for BMW in the U.S.
Now, Obviously, we're in a unique position here where a lot of people locally might have gotten into BMW simply because the BMW plant is here, the Performance Center is here. And as a result, BMW is local, so it's special to a lot of people. What was your main attraction? What makes BMW so special to you?
I would say balance. It handles well, it brakes well, it accelerates well, it's got high quality. It's not the kind of car that rattles after you've had it for 5 years. And I work on my cars, and so I've taken them apart at different times for different things. And when you see underneath the skin, it's just a really well-built car. And the stuff that people will never see, like, they use rubber insulation underneath the interior panels so that there's no vibration noise and rattles and things like that. They really go out of their way to build a quality product. And it's fun to drive. It's just, there's a unique feel that BMWs have that you can't really get in any other car.
And of course, the tagline was always the ultimate driving machine, which brings to mind when I give the numbers 2002. What does that mean to you, and what does that mean to pretty much the history of BMW?
Well, the model 2002, which came out in the 70s, was the car that really put BMW on the map, especially in the United States. It was the first authentic sports sedan, and it was a car that could handle. A car that could brake. It was a car that had reasonable acceleration, and you could put 4 adults in it and their luggage, and go to the store or take a trip or something like that. So the 2002 was really the beginning of the large sales, and frankly, it was kind of the beginning of the BMW Car Club, because in those days, the BMW dealer network wasn't as robust as it is today. And so the car club started in Boston back in those days for all these people who would flash their lights at each other when they're going down the street. And but when it came time to tune them up, or if they had an issue they needed to work on, they could talk to each other and help overcome whatever challenges they might have with the car. And from that come the camaraderie that you have with the car club. And it's, we say we join for the cars, but we stay for the people, because the people are just, in general, they're just a great group of individuals that have this common passion.
Now, I've been kind of going through here and showing some of the different pictures of cars at an event on the test track, and I've noticed along the lines, in addition to what you would consider, classic BMWs, also saw a Mini in there or two. Obviously, BMW owns them. Do you guys kind of welcome that with open arms?
We like Minis. The Mini people are so much fun. They love to drive those cars. I mean, they drive them hard. When you drive with the Mini people, strap yourself in. So they're a lot of fun. And the other end of the spectrum, of course, is BMW owns Rolls-Royce, which you don't see those being flung around on racetracks very often, although they can do it. But yeah, the Mini people are just they're a great group of people, and we enjoy them. We invite them to our events, and I've been to a couple of their meetings and stuff. Really cool people, and cool little cars. I like them.
Now, when did you first get involved with the BMW on the local level and with the Sandlapper Chapter?
I moved here 10 years ago, and I got involved immediately. I was doing events in Houston, where we moved from, and I liked being a part of a bigger part of the club, And so I started doing some of the social events in the upstate, and then we've sort of divided the state into regions, and the upstate region was, I guess, given to me, and so that's when I got involved in stuff like that. And then 2.5 years ago, the president of the chapter decided he wanted to pursue other interests, and so I rose my hand, and they said, "You got it." So as the chapter president, there's about 1,500 members in the state of South Carolina in the chapter. We have a few members outside of the border of South Carolina, but most of them are in the population centers that we have in the state. And we really tried to expand the number of events we've got and keep them a little closer to those major population centers, although we'll have certain events that, like we have a driving event every year that draws people from not only all over the state, but outside of the state. It's called an HPDE. It's a high performance type of driving event. So, so that's kind of fun, and I enjoy it. I get to meet some really great people, and of course I get to see a lot of cars, and we really try to create events that appeal to almost everybody. You can be a driver, you can be a car show person, you can be a casual driver, you can be someone who wants to wrench on a car, you can be someone who just wants to read about it, you know, and listen to technical information and things like that. So we have a very diverse audience and very diverse group of members.
Now, unbeknownst to some people, obviously BMW has been here for at least a little while now, but the Sandlapper chapter, that didn't come with BMW coming to the area. That had been in the area for some time.
Yeah, this chapter started in 1977, I think, and it was the 25th chapter to start with the organization. There are currently 68 chapters. Most of those are what we call geographic chapters, which means that they're based on a geography. Like, you know, we have one in South Carolina, Texas being as big as there's 3 of them there. We also have a handful of non-geo chapters, like the 2002 chapter. So all the 2002 owners that want to be part of that and more involved in the details of that car versus an E30, which is another model, versus the E31, which is a beautiful 8 Series. So all these different chapters, they're specifically designed for either the local folks or for a specific model car that BMW makes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds great. We are going to delve a little bit deeper into the Sandlapper chapter and what they do, some of their events, and how you can join. We're going to do that right after this break. Stay with us. And welcome back. We are here once again with Neil Baer, the president of the Sandlapper BMW chapter. And now we're going to talk a little bit more about the chapter itself. We already talked a little bit about the history of the chapter. So let's talk about some of the things that the chapter does, not just with the upstate region, but kind of, you know, the whole chapter statewide.
Thanks. Yeah, there's a lot going on. We typically have about 100+ events a year across the chapter. So in some of the cities, in the regions, I should say, we have a chapter meeting on a regular basis. We do some dinner meeting, and we may have a guest speaker. We may talk about some new technology or something new that BMW is coming out with. So it's kind of a nice way for people to get together and talk to each other. And of course, since everybody brings their cars, we stand in the parking lot for a while and take a look at all those. We have bigger car shows. We actually have a show 3 times a year at the BMW plant. And each time we try to bring on a different version of the car. We did the 3 Series. This coming July 12th on Saturday, we'll be doing the Alpina. We'll be featuring the Alpina brand of BMW. And then in October, we've got another one where we're doing the 8 Series, which is kind of a rare group of cars that BMW has made over the years and still makes. We do drives to the mountains and things like that. We have guest speakers. We had actually the former president come in and give his assessment of how tariffs impact the automotive industry in general. We talk about hydrogen power. We have tech sessions where we can show people how to, you know, change their oil or the fluids in their cars, do a brake job, things like that. Because we have people that they enjoy wrenching on their cars, saves them money, and honestly, there's a certain satisfaction in working on your own car that, you know, it did this when it started and it did that when it ended. So, so there's a bunch of different things we do. One of the things that's coming up, by the way, is we also work with in Greer, we work with a local group that does Meals on Wheels, and so periodically we'll work with them, and we'll take over for the normal volunteers, and people get their Meals on Wheels delivered in BMWs. So it's kind of a fun thing. I remember doing that, and the guy goes, "I didn't recognize the car." And I just said, well, I'm new. And so we had a good time doing it, though. It's a nice thing to give something back to the community.
Now, you know, you've got a couple local events coming up too. One of them's at Fluor Field.
Yeah, actually, tomorrow night we got Bimmers and Baseball, which is an annual event. We have to start with a car show about half a block from the field, and then we're up on what they call the rooftop, which is kind of over the big wall in left field, and have a nice meal, get to watch the game. You get to see the entire ballpark from there. So it's a nice way, again, to meet with people, and you get different people each time. We got people that'll come up from Charleston for that, or from Myrtle Beach, or things like that. And so, and it's the only time I may see these people. They'll come for one event, and that's their event. So it's kind of fun to just see people, you know, and bring their cars and just, you know, just talk with each other and enjoy each other's company.
Now, I know you also have some specific cars and coffee events too.
Yeah, those are the ones at the plant that we do. We of course, we go to a lot of Cars and Coffee. There's a ton of them in the Greenville area, and as well as the other spots. Myrtle Beach has big ones, Columbia, and Charleston, for example. So we're participating in all of those. In many cases, we start at those and we move on to have lunch together and things like that. But the ones coming up, like I mentioned, the Alpina brand, which is they only make about 2,000 cars a year globally. So when you're in the presence of Alpina, you're really with something rare, which is kind of different and unique. And they're kind of like BMWs on steroids. They make them a little bit faster, a little more performance, and a little more luxurious all at the same time. So it's a fascinating group. I hope people can come and see it. There's actually an exhibition at the Ultimate Car Museum from now till beginning of next year. It's a fun place to go and see some truly unique vehicles.
Now, you mentioned the Cars and Coffee being at the plant. Again, we're in a unique position here where we've got the BMW plant. What are some of the things that you as a chapter, in comparison to any other chapter, that you have access to that's kind of special that we can get down here because, well, we've got the BMW plant in the backyard?
Well, the BMW plant, the Performance Center, I mean, we've done some tours at the plant that are unique to us. You know, for example, you can't get to see the paint shop very often. It's not easy to get to physically compared to other areas of the plant. And so every once in a while we try to have a tour there if they'll allow it, because they're very, they've got a lot of security in the plant for a lot of reasons. The Performance Center, we have, you know, we do autocrosses there occasionally. Autocross is where you're timing yourself against, you're in a flat parking lot with cones and things like that. At the Performance Center, you're actually using part of their track, and you're timing yourself against yourself and others in your class, and that's a lot of fun. We do that also at Michelin, but having all those accessible things. When we do a holiday party, we do it at the Performance Center, for example. And we are going to have in September, we're going to have a special guest speaker, a couple of executives from BMW that'll talk about what the plant is doing and where it's going. And that'll be in the Zentrum, which is actually a museum that was built when the plant was originally built just over 25 years ago. So it's a great place to visit. They've got an auditorium that seats maybe 150, 200 people. I'd like to get a movie in there, but I'll settle for listening to the folks that we're going to have as guest speakers, because they're really interesting and very knowledgeable, and you'll learn about the history of how the whole plant was built, as well as where it's going in the next 5 years or so.
Having had access to certain things and facilities at BMW that maybe the average person might not, what has been your favorite experience, either at the plant or at the Performance Center?
Wow, that's like asking, you know, who's your favorite kid, you know? I think at the Performance Center, you know, every time you go, it's a rush, literally a rush. You know, you're driving cars. You might, depending on the event, you might drive your car. But even if you're driving a bone stock BMW, you're amazed at how well the cars perform. Just right out of the gate, they don't do anything special. They just run great. And they run a long time. You know, these things don't just sit there for, I don't know, a month or so. They run them for thousands and thousands of miles, and they run very well right out of the box. I've driven some V12s and V10s over there. That was kind of exciting because they took a little while to wind up, but when they did, it was like, wow. And I think we had some tours at the plant that were very interesting. I happen to be kind of a geek when it comes to manufacturing, and I'm just wowed by the logistics of how they can take something and build it in, you know, just over a day and a half with parts from I don't know how many vendors they've got, maybe 100 around here, plus parts that come from overseas, and it's just like, it's incredible to watch how something so complex becomes so simple the way they do it, because they do it so well. It's just, and you can eat off the floor. I mean, it's such a clean place. It's just, it's fascinating. If anybody who has not toured the plant, they have 1 and 2 hour tours, I would suggest going. In fact, they just opened a new metal stamping plant where they just bring in these gigantic rolls of steel and stamp out like a tailgate on an X3 or something like that. It's just really cool to see. It's really cool.
That's something I have not done, but I've been kind of meaning to do. It's just, it seems almost every time that I've got family in town and something comes up, it's like, oh, well, that happens to be when they're shut down or they're retooling or something goes on, and it's like, well, we can't do that.
Yeah, because they close down during the Christmas season, and they close down like around 4th of July, so and they're open only Monday through Friday. So you got to work those family things around the BMW plant, okay?
I just need more family that doesn't work Monday through Friday. It would be easier for
it would
be easier for everybody. If somebody is interested in joining the club, what do they need to do?
Well, we have a website, which is sandlapperbmw.org. You can go on there and hit a link and join. You can go to, there's a National BMW Car Club of America site. You can go on there and join. At some of our local sponsors, they've got brochures that have a QR code on it. You can do that, and we really appreciate our sponsors because we're very picky about our cars, as you can imagine, and we're picky about our sponsors because we only choose sponsors that we will bring our cars to, and we do bring our cars to. So those would be 3 different ways you could sign up.
And you don't even have to own a BMW. You just have to like them and you're good.
Absolutely. We've got people who drive like Porsche 911s, and they're in the BMW club. They don't even have BMW, but they like hanging with us because we're just fun people. But seriously, you don't have to have one, and if you are aspiring to have one of the benefits of the car club is they offer up to $1,000 rebate from BMW North America. So if you've been a car club member for anywhere from 6 to 12 months, it just depends, you're eligible for the rebate on a certified used car as well as pretty much all the new cars. And depending on how much the car costs, it can go up to $1,000 rebate. I can tell you, I've taken advantage of that. My membership has been paid for the rest of my life, and it's fun. It's tax-free, by the way, so don't tell the government.
In the group, with all the events you've been to and the cars you've seen, what would be probably the oldest example of a BMW that you've seen locally?
Oh, the oldest one is the Dixie. The Dixie was the first BMW ever made. It was actually a modified car from Britain, and BMW took it and added more braking, more horsepower, different safety features and things like that. And they came out in the late 20s. And so there's one at the Zentrum. We've had them at exhibitions. You don't see these things driving around because they're very, very old and very fragile because they're of their age. But that is the oldest one. I've also seen some pre-war BMWs, which are gorgeous, absolutely phenomenally beautiful. BMW has made fast cars all of its time. The bread and butter is actually a sedan or things like that. That's where most of the money gets made by BMW. But they've always had sports cars like the 328, the 315, and things like that before the war, and then after the war they had the 507, which is a car that still looks amazing, even though came out in the late 50s. And some of the other cars that are still today, they're just as beautiful.
And obviously, in recent history, that bread and butter has become a little bit more SUV-ish because, of course, they build a lot of them here, too.
This is where almost all the SUVs are built, and 60% of them are exported, more than 60%. Actually, BMW actually exports more in dollar volume than any other car manufacturer in the country, so which is kind of funny when you think about it. And they export more than they import, so it's a net positive to our trade balance. And I'm trying to think of what percent stay here. It's a pretty significant percentage that stay here. But I'll tell you what, they don't call them SUVs, they call them SAVs, sport activity vehicles. And you might think, well, they're just, slicing hairs and stuff like that. But when you drive the thing, you'll be amazed at how performance-oriented these things drive. They handle, they brake, they've got great acceleration, they're comfortable. They're just bigger, So if you like bigger and you need bigger, and you still want to have something that really is fun to drive, that's a great choice to make.
That's nice. Well, if time flies, we are out of time already. Thanks, Neil, for joining us here on Carolina Rides.
Thank you, Dan. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here and for you to have this whole Carolina Rides segment. It's really cool, and it's something additive to the whole car community.
Well, thanks for the good words, and thanks for watching. We'll have another episode up in 2 weeks. You can catch us up on the YouTube page and all that to find out more about what's coming up. Thanks for joining us. Drive safely. See you next time.